r/rules horror. Posted by u/fluffyboy2. There is a specific rule everyone in my school must follow. When the flowers bloomed. Final. The flowers finally bloomed. It was a beautiful sight. Under the dark sky was a beautiful garden full of red spider lily flowers. I was attracted to it at first, but then I realized that I need to move quickly. I switched on my flashlight and navigated my way to the wooden door next to the gate. I turned the knob over and over but was unable to open the door. It was fully locked. I was about to climb the wall but it was too high and I don't have any climbing skills. I called my parents. Ring, ring. Sorry, this number is unavailable at the moment, please try again later. I tried again. Same result. I was locked inside the school. In the morning, when the teacher was talking, he also handed me a paper with his phone number on it, but I didn't save the number and only took a picture. I opened my gallery and tried to find the phone number. As I was swiping from photos to photos, I came across a picture of the 2 fully written pages on my note. Right, it was the sub-rules the teacher told me. I took a picture because I was sharing it with my friend in the city but also forgot about it when I was home. That's when another idea popped into my head. Texting. I opened my messaging app and sent my parents a message but a red text appeared under the text I sent. The message couldn't be sent through. Please try again later. It also didn't work. I opened my gallery app again and finally found the phone number of my teacher. His handwriting was bad but I could read a line under his number. Note, calling at the school when the flowers are blooming won't work, not only with my number, but also every other number. How could a thing that nonsense is a thing? Suddenly. Creak. There was a creaky sound coming from behind me. It came from the main building. I turned back and shined my flashlight just in time to catch a glimpse of a figure walking to the left side to go up the stairs. A student? I followed the figure upstairs. Something inside me was telling me not to. If you see any students during that time, don't try and talk to them. As I was walking up the stairs, I remembered the picture I looked at earlier. I opened it once more to check it closely. It was the second rule. Above it was, if the flower bloom and you're still in the school, try and hide your existence as long as possible. A shiver ran down my spine as I felt someone was coming from the corner of the stairs. I turned off my flashlight and snuck away into the cafeteria. I opened the door and closed it behind me. I crawled under one of the tables as the footsteps started to come closer and closer. The door once again swung open. I could see a pair of feet walking slowly around the cafeteria. It went over to a table near me and sat down on the chair at the rear end. I could barely see because of how dark it was. Clang. It was the sound of a metal food tray being placed on the table. I looked closely at the position that person was sitting in and in an instant, I blinked. But the pair of feet weren't there anymore. There was no sound, just silence and darkness surrounding me. I crawled out of the table and like I thought, that person wasn't there anymore. I walked over to the metal tray and found a student's card. School's ID card. Name, Ben Johnson. Class, ROOM 12. A student's card? Why is this here? Room 12, maybe I could find something there. I turned on my flashlight and walked outside slowly. I went up the stairs with one hand holding my flashlight, one hand holding my phone which has the photo of the rules opened. I did put the form paper inside my pocket. I figured that room 12 could be locked so I went over to the teacher's lounge instead. I grabbed all the keys I could find and then walked over to room 12. While I was walking there, I saw a student walking toward me with their head down. I looked at my phone. If you see a student that is not looking at you, don't interact with them. As I read the line, I tried my best not to look up and glued my eye into my phone. When the time finally passed, I looked back and there was no one. I was starting to feel scared. Everything was so quiet that I could even hear my heartbeat. My only light source was coming from my flashlight beside my phone which I was using as a guide. When I got to room 12, I unlocked it with the key and as soon as I opened it, I didn't see anyone at first. But when I slowly moved my flashlight over to the students' seats, it was a class full of students that were looking on the platform. When they noticed me, all of them turned their head over to me at once. My legs couldn't hold me up and I fell on the hard wooden floor. I couldn't even scream. After a while, I stood up and the class was empty. The only thing on the seats were backpacks. It seems like no one in the school brought their backpacks home. On one of the tables was a small piece of paper. I went over to it and read the words written on it. Why am I writing this? Probably because I'm too deep in love. The protector's daughter is so beautiful, I think I have a crush on her. I can't leave this place but as long as I have her, I don't need to go anywhere else. The protector? Who could that be? I didn't let that on my mind for too much and proceed to go to another classroom with the keys I have. After going through all of the rooms with the keys I had, they all have something in common. Backpacks were all on chairs. I could finally confirm that. No one brought their backpack home, no one. Even though I brought all of the keys I could find in the teacher's lounge, there were only 3 of them even though there are more than 10 classrooms. Out of the 3 keys, one was used to unlock room 12. And the other 2 were for room 10 and room 8. I headed downstairs to find room 10. I walked down step by step. "Hey Miller, could I go with you? I'm kind of scared." A person tapped on my shoulder, asking if they could go with me. It was my instinct to answer with something, but then just as I was about to answer, I took a quick look into my phone. My heart dropped as the voice gets closer to my ears. It started to ask, "Hey Miller, what is that you just read? It looks like a note. Is that your handwriting? Hey Miller, can I come with you? Hey, hey, hey." With each "hey," it gets closer and closer. The rule didn't say that I wasn't allowed to respond, so I mumbled out the words. No. The voice started to get further away. "Hey Miller, why? Miller, please could you tell me? Miller? I'm scared. I don't want to go alone. Get away. Stop following me." The voice stopped, then it finally spoke again. "Hey Miller, let's be friends. Hey Miller, where are you going? Hey Miller, are you in love with someone? Hey Miller, want to go somewhere? Hey Miller, want to join me? Hey Miller, can you die?" I started to run as fast as I could to room 10 and unlocked the door to let myself in. I closed it behind me without looking and then locked the door. "Hey Miller, can I come in? Hey Miller, can I take you? Hey Miller, let's stay here, in the class I study at." The class it studied at? As I was wondering what it means while shaking uncontrollably, the voice stopped. I stood up and listened carefully. It wasn't there anymore. In the class, there was a picture of someone on a desk at the end of the class. I took a look at it. It was a picture frame of a girl. Under the picture frame were 2 notes. The first note read, "I'm tired, I really am. I'm tired of this place. I am being erased by my class. Why? Was it because I'm weird? I don't know if I want to live anymore." The other note read, "Letter from the principal. We are sorry about the loss of your daughter. It's a part of our fault because the attention we gave her wasn't enough. As the principal, I will take responsibility for what happened." I put down the note and the picture was face down onto the ground. I pulled it up and the girl inside the photo frame was gone. "So, even you too? What is it that I did to be treated like this?" The voice started to fade away as it talks and finally, "Then, if you don't care about me, I'll leave you. Just know, people like you are why I was here in the first place." I turned back and stood still in silence. I dropped my flashlight right when I saw something swinging on the platform. It was a corpse, hanging. The flashlight started to flicker, and it finally ran out of battery. I stood up and ran out of the pitch-black room. There was still one more key for a room that I still haven't gone into, so I decided to check the only room left I could find. There wasn't anything special in the room beside a small baseball bat on one of the desks. I walked out of the room and at the end of the hallway where there is a window, and there was a light source illuminating from below, a red light. I walked over to it and it was another window that shows the garden. The flowers were glowing, and standing in the middle of the garden was a girl. I could only see her body, not her clothes or anything else because the red color was covering everything up. I walked downstairs to head out of the main building, but when I reached the bottom floor, I saw a student, holding their phone, looking down. I followed the rule and looked at them until they went out of my sight. I used my phone as a flashlight and went outside of the main building. I walked over to the side of the main building and found myself standing at the entrance of the garden. I walked inside and saw her. I approached the girl who was standing in the middle of the garden filled with red spider lily flowers surrounding her, creating a calming yet horrifying feeling inside me. She was wearing a uniform, an old school black and white uniform. That's when I realized my mistake. The girl slowly turned at me, and when she was facing me, I could see her face. She was holding a red spider lily flower in her hand. She smiles and that's when my head hurts like hell. I passed out after that. I woke up in the middle of the garden. The flowers were still blooming. On one side was a baseball bat and on the other side was a small piece of paper that was dirty. I was lying on a uniform. The old school black and white uniform. The note on the ground was the same note I found in room 12. But it was too dirty to read. And when I stood up and skimmed through the ground, there was a small key on top of the uniform. I grabbed it and walked to the security guard's room near the gates and then unlocked it using the key. I pressed the button to release the locks for the big gates. Then when I was about to open them, I remembered one of the rules. It was the rule that I wasn't allowed to leave until 5 a.m. I looked at my phone but it was only midnight. If I had stayed for more, I'd become insane. I pushed the gates wide open. I slowly walked back to my house out in the dark, and when I reached my house, no one was inside. I yelled out for my parents but there wasn't anyone. I ran out of my house to find them and noticed a small light coming from near the school. I snuck over there to find a group of people standing in a circle. They were chanting something. As I got closer, I realized that in the middle of the circle was my parents, strapped into a pole. I ran over to them, and when someone noticed me, everyone started to freak out. The kid escaped. They started to back away from me. How did you interact with the girl? It was my teacher who asked me that. Answer me first, what the fuck are you all doing? If you want to know, I'll give you the explanation, you deserve to know it. A long time ago, this place was protected by a person who we called the Protector. The Protector was an old man who could do all types of magic to help us grow crops and more. His wife died not too long after his daughter was born. She went to school and studied there. Everything was fine until two boys called her out into the school's garden at night and knocked her out, then raped her. They left her in the cold and she died there. When the Protector found out, he cursed the school, more specifically, the garden, so that at every midnight, a single flower will bloom there. We all didn't think much about it until one day, a girl went into the school as a dare by her friends. She was dared to use her phone to record things inside the garden. She never came back out. Everyone started to look for the Protector and burned him alive. He swore that when he and his daughter are united, they will kill the whole village. After the death of the girl who was dared, another flower appeared inside the garden. Teachers tried to cut it to no avail. They all grew back immediately. Everyone raided the Protector's house and found out that, before he died, he has casted a curse on everyone in the village. By feeling headache, it means that he has attached himself to that person. If that person also meets his daughter, they both will be reunited, and when that happened, the existence of this place and everyone who participated in the death of his and his daughter will also be erased from the existence. We also discovered that by going into the school when the flowers are blooming will make you meet the people who have been captured there. That's why we made a list of rules to help everyone who accidentally walked into here. I was being overwhelmed. There were rumors of a girl in a white-black uniform roaming around the school holding a flower at night. The only person who wears a white-black uniform in this place is the Protector's daughter. Which is why it is important that no one must interact with her, or else she will meet the Protector. We thought by just giving out the rules was all good, but then, the flowers went from blooming at midnight to 11:30 p.m. and lower every year. We temporarily stopped that by offering the blood of the outsiders. So tell me, did you meet her? The girl in a black-white uniform. I started to look at him. I answered. Even if I didn't, I wish I did. You people are all monsters. Yes. I did meet her. Yes, I did get a headache after a sleep. You also opened the gates, didn't you? So? You released them all. The school was the only thing holding them. If this town is erased, then they will have nowhere to go. They will roam the outside. And God knows what they would do. As soon as he finished his sentence, everything around me started to shake. It has begun. Someone said. Everyone started to panic. They ran around, screaming and crying. I could see some of my one-day classmates hugging their parents, crying and screaming. Some small children were too young to understand what was going on. I ran over to my parents, but their eyes weren't opened. Blood was dripping from their hands. They already died. As they scream, cry, everything started to collapse, and then, silence. I turned back and they were all gone. I was left stranded in the middle of the road. I reached inside my pocket to find the form paper that I first looked for. I tore it apart and then finally, sent it away with the blowing wind.